Good afternoon. We're going to be baking triple chocolate pound cake today. These are the ingredients. You need about 1 cup of unsalted butter, and you can also use clarified butter in that case as a substitute, but it should be 1 cup. You need about 4 to 5 eggs. You need 1 cup of sour cream. You need about 2.5 cups of flour, and for that I tend to use self-raising flour because it already has the sodium bicarbonate in it. But if you want to use ordinary flour, you can do that. Just make sure you add some baking powder to it, about 1 teaspoon, to actually bake the flour. You need cocoa powder, about half a cup of it. You need about 1/4 cup of milk, any type of milk can do. You need 1 teaspoon of coffee powder. You'll require half a teaspoon of salt. Now why do we add salt? Apparently it's an age-old technique to further bring out the sweetness in cakes. Only half a teaspoon. We don't add any salt into cakes obviously otherwise. You need 1 3/4 cup of sugar. I haven't put that in this collection, but you can use any type of castor sugar, C-A-S-T-E-R, castor sugar, 1 3/4 cups of it. You'll need some vanilla extract, about 1 teaspoon. And the second stage is the ganache, spelled as G-A-N-A-C-H-E, which is a topping for the cake. For that you'll require some chocolate chips for the ganache. You'll require heavy cream for the ganache. This is how heavy cream looks like. About 1/3 cup, but I use the whole thing. You need about 1 teaspoon of butter. For that I use the same clarified butter. And lastly, a tiny pinch of salt for the ganache. And let's start baking. The next step is to cream together the butter and sugars together. This is the sugar which I didn't show in the previous clip. This is the ordinary castor sugar, which is made for baking cakes. Need about 1 3/4 cup of it is placed in this. Now add the unsalted butter. For that, if you buy unsalted butter, you got to melt it, but don't boil it and then pour it over. But I like to use clarified butter, and we need about 1 cup of it. So here it is. I'm adding some clarified butter. It's so hot in the summer that often it just melts on its own from the pack. So you don't need to melt it, unlike unsalted butter. That's not enough, so I need some more, so I'll take another fresh pack and pour it all in. That's 1.5 cups. You can just tell it's summer just by the way it's already melted in the pack. Now to mix all this together, ideal way of doing it is you will need to use one of these, this sort of a mixer, to whisk them all together. And whilst I do that, because it's a little bit hard to record and mix at the same time, what I'll do is I will mix it after I stop the recording. But you'll also have to, after doing the mixing, add in the adding the eggs. And this is how the eggs look like, with the yolk of course. So 4 to 5 eggs added to this sugar and to this clarified butter mixture. And now you can also, alternate way of doing it is to whisk all this together, and this will save you some time using the hand mixer. So the next step will be, after all this has been mixed together, is to add in the sour cream and vanilla. But first you mix them all together with the hand mixer, and then we add in later on sour cream and vanilla. Now that you have creamed together the butter, the sugar and the eggs for about 2 minutes with the mixer, you can see that it's rather fluffy. That's the end point. To this we now add the sour cream, and to mix that all together. And to this we also add the vanilla essence, the vanilla extract. You need about 1 teaspoon of the vanilla extract added to this. And now mix all this together. The next step is adding in the flour and the baking powder. For this you'll require 2.5 cups of the flour, which goes into this mixture, and after that comes half a cup of the cocoa powder, which also goes into this mixture, and mix them all together. That's a beautiful sight, and this is how it should appear, containing the flour, the cocoa powder, and previous to that the butter, sugar and eggs all together, along with the sour cream and vanilla mixture. Now to this I'm holding some instant coffee powder. You require about 1 teaspoon of it, which gets added in. Because I have used self-raising flour, you don't need baking powder, but if you're using ordinary flour, you need about baking powder, about 1 whole teaspoon of it. And why are we adding salt? As I had explained earlier, a small amount of salt, very small amount, adds to the taste. About 1 pinch of salt brings out the taste of the sugar better in all cakes and all desserts. That's why we're adding the tiny bit of salt. Now at this stage we can add in the milk, which is about 1/4 cup of it. The next step is to appreciate what this is. This is a BUNDT, a bunded pan, which we will use to actually bake the triple chocolate pound cake. I've lined it with baking paper, and this stuff in here is actually extra virgin olive oil poured in so that it prevents sticking of the chocolate cake. So we'll roll it evenly to coat all the layers. Here, by the way, is the cake which is about to be baked. I've added the milk. I haven't done the video for that, but I've just added the milk after the previous clip, about half a cup of milk, and blended it all in. Now all this stuff, it'll be quite hard to do it while recording, but all this stuff has to go now into the bunded pan, and that goes into the oven. The next step is the actual baking process. This is the oven with material about to be baked into the triple chocolate pound cake. The settings are about 180 to 200 degrees centigrade for about 1 hour, and it's getting baked. This is also a busy thumbnail video. There are 3 things you can see. Bottom left hand is this chocolate chips. You can buy it from any ordinary chocolate chips package. It can be either white chocolate or dark chocolate, it doesn't matter. This over here is the double cream, which I have heated, as you can see over here, very briefly, just for 5 minutes on very low heat, just enough to melt it. And after it has been melted, I'm going to pour all of it over the chocolate cream mixture. And this is what's known as the ganache, G-A-N-A-C-H-E. Now I've also taken the cake out of the pan. This is how it looks like. It's taken the shape of the bunded pan. And then I'm going to pour this ganache, after mixing obviously the chocolate chips and the heated thick cream, on top of that. At this stage you might want to use additional ingredients. You could also add some clarified butter melted into this mixture. You can also whisk it with those handheld whisk electric one, which I shown you earlier, or you can just leave it as it is and pour this whole thing on top of the chocolate cake and put shavings of chocolate to decorate. For example, here's some dessert chocolate. 70% cocoa is the one we use for baking. This can be put on top as shavings. That's the final product. That's the triple pound chocolate cake with the ganache on top, with some little silver globe decorations are put, but you can also use white chocolate shavings as decorations. Now I'll give you the close-up. You can see some of the ganache in the middle, in that center hollow. This is the close-up of the cake. Absolutely beautiful.